So, good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed your lunch and now you're ready for our first Getvisibility webinar. My name is Mirko Medovic and I'm the BDM of Aero Switzerland in charge for Getvisibility. Mr. Gianluca Urbano is also here with me as Aero's Networks and Security Business Unit Manager. On the side of Getvisibility, we have Derek as CTO, and he will lead you through today's webinar. An important information before Derek starts with this presentation is that you can send me all the questions regarding Getvisibility in the email after this webinar, and I will do my best to provide the right answers to all of your questions as soon as possible. In addition, I will deliver you today's presentations via email. So, Derek, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that and appreciate the opportunity as well for Getvisibility to be able to present to this group. I'm joined as well by Susan here in the office with me, and also our product manager, Artyom. Artyom is online. And hi, Artyom. So I have a presentation. The presentation itself is not that long, and it talks a little bit about the product, but it mainly focuses on the professional services and the revenue opportunities that we have identified, and we have improved over time as we have learned how flexible the Getvisibility software can be in different industries and in different states of customer sophistication when it comes to security posture. So if I can move away from the first slide, I hope everybody can see the slides, and we will present, we will pass them around afterwards, of course. So in terms of the actual challenge, so the problem that we discovered about 3 years ago now was that unstructured documents are very easy to create and circulate and pass around, and unstructured data in the form of documents can be Word documents, PDF documents, Excel files, PowerPoint files, and there's a lot of different formats, and it's very easy to create these documents. There's a lot of powerful Office tools that you can use, and it's easy to share them as well. People like to share them and pass them around. And we felt and discovered about 3 years back that these documents were not really being very well protected. Usually they were considered to be not so important, but that has changed over the last year or so. And the reason it has changed is because there are more focus now on all types of data. Data security encompasses not only your structured data and your customers' structured data, which is your Oracle financials, your Salesforce, your SAP, but it also should include your documents as well, your unstructured documents. And that's what Getvisibility is focusing on. So a typical enterprise customer might have a lot of documents, especially if they're a large organization and they've been in business for some time. And as a result, these documents may be accumulating over many years and might be sitting on legacy repositories. New documents are being created all the time, so it's getting larger, the problem. You can also potentially have complex sets of tags, and it's a challenge for keeping track of this data. This diagram is a very, very high level, very abstracted list of the potential information that a company might keep. And you can see there's some interesting stuff there. There's intellectual property in the top right-hand corner. There's sensitive financial information in the top left-hand corner, important government contracts or sensitive contracts. And then, of course, there's the other information that is becoming very sensitive now with GDPR, such as the HR information. and information about the strategy of the company. So documents are a major problem. Artyom, if I could perhaps invite you to say a few words if your mic is working.
Yeah, thank you. Can you
It
hear me?
sounds clear. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, Dirk mentioned, an regular enterprise organization would have access to a huge amount of unstructured documents, such as financial information about mergers and acquisition, some very specific intellectual properties, IT information, code, HR information. It could be some information regarding sales and process manufacturing and so on. And with that, such enterprise organizations would have a number of challenges, such as complex classification taxonomies, if they already have started classifying their data. They have increasing pressure of audit that comes along with new regulations such as GDPR, for example, where a company needs to know where all of their PI data is. The new documents created rapidly, and there is a big number of data duplicates and redundant, obsolete, and trivial data. And also they have diverse document storage, where they have documents located anywhere on laptops, desktops, file servers, in the cloud, in some shadow IT resources, in many various different places. And along with those challenges, there is a number of initiatives running by an enterprise to solve them, such as rolling out or running and supporting data loss prevention system to protect such sensitive data, work with data cleanup to avoid data duplication and redundant, obsolete, and trivial data, work with governance, risk, and compliance to pass audit, work on cloud migration, reduce shadow IT, and perhaps even run manual classification. And as we can see, there is a big number of challenges that follows enterprise customers. And if we will have a look at them per various verticals, we can see that they might have different major challenges. Such, for example, for a big manufacturing company, they will spend a lot of time with resources making sure that their employees has access to the most recent data around their design documents stored in cloud. Or if it's a big insurance company, they will have a major challenge working with data subject access requests, where they are looking for information about very specific subject or a person within their company to provide it back. If it's a big health industry company, then they will have a big challenge looking after their protected health information in America, or if we speak of Europe, they will be looking for medical personal identifiable information. That's a very complicated task on its own as well. And if there are other industries, like for example, huge R&D, they interested in knowing where is their intellectual property. And as you can see, that's a big number of challenges they need to solve on per industry basis. And currently, we can if a big enterprise wants to solve it, they probably will have to split their approach into two ways. One is deal with their legacy data, and another one look after their newly created data. And usually in the market, there are separate product per each way, such one for legacy data, and another one is for dealing with new data. And if we will have a look at approach that you take to work with legacy data, then most likely an enterprise company will be looking for a software that takes automatic approach in classifying data, that use quite old approach with regex and dictionary lookups. It's where you need to create a lot of rules how you would classify the data. And if you want to classify the data to some good accuracy, then your rules are becoming very complex. A company needs to spend a lot of time creating and maintaining them. And the result of that still be quite low accuracy as a result in classification. And the company needs to invest more time, more resources to improve the rules. But eventually, they will see a plateau in terms of classification accuracy. And as a result of that, if they have a DLP that uses the data, it will deliver limited security just because you don't know where is your sensitive data, you cannot classify it well. And also, it will stall an organization from full cloud adoption due to security concerns. From another point, when you deal with new data, you will probably take an approach of manual classification, where your endpoint users sit and do manual classification. And because there are usually a big complexity in tags and classification taxonomy, it's either would be very simple classification like internal, external, confidential, and so on. Or if you want to classify data properly, like to say, all right, this is specific HR document, and after HR is CV, very simple example. But what if you need to split under different subcategories more complicated documents? In that case, accuracy is still quite low because people tend to make mistakes, and even if it's end of the day, people can want to get their work done, and they can misclassify the data. And that can lead either to low accuracy, or it can even lead to insider threats where people misclassify data intentionally.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Artyom. So just to summarize, this is the situation that we discovered approximately 2.5 years ago, that there's a lot of data out there. There are a lot of challenges facing organizations, which we've described, and possibly these resonate with some of you, and you've seen some of these projects started in customers. And up until Getvisibility was available, you'd have to look at 2 separate products. But those days are gone. We have solved it by using Getvisibility to attack both of these, legacy and new data, using machine learning. Machine learning is a new technology that I'm sure many of you will be very aware and has got great potential for solving complex problems that up until now have used or have needed human intervention. Machine learning has reached the point already 2 years ago with natural language processing, which looks at text data that's perfect for us for documents, that it's able to get better classification accuracy than an expert human, provided it's trained. What a powerful tool. So we decided to incorporate a tool like that into a software platform that is scalable and can operate at large scale in complex network organizations. So this diagram is a very busy diagram, and I'd like to just point out that you can see the Getvisibility software running in 2 clusters in the gold color. You can see that we are able to scan repositories of documents in many different places, including cloud services, which could be the public ones from AWS, Google, or Microsoft. We can also scan Dropbox and a few others as well like that. We can scan file servers inside the customer's network, and this is a very popular feature because because of the history and the legacy that we've just described, a lot of documents live on these file servers today still. We're also able to look at storage devices and storage access networks. So also early next year, we will be launching an agent which allows those devices in the bubble at the top. You can see PC, smartphones, desktops, PDAs, tablets. Those devices will also be incorporated into the overall view of the data across the organization. So that's a very technical diagram. And it just gives you an idea of the integration that we can do inside an organization. But to talk about the software itself, remember we mentioned that the more tags and the more categories and classifications that you have, the more difficult it is for a human or a document classification expert even to be able to distinguish easily and consistently between these tags. The machine learning does not have that same problem. It's able to distinguish from a rich set of tags, and we're showing you a screenshot from the software which shows you the out-of-the-box tags that are available. The machine learning models know how to classify documents into these categories, and it's ready on day one. As soon as the software is installed and ready to go, your machine learning system in Getvisibility is able to classify documents of all of these types. However, there's an interesting revenue opportunity here, which we describe in a later slide, about how you can customize this and work with customers to modify this either by adding tags or modifying the existing tags, or by adding entire new categories and columns. It's very powerful. There's also an opportunity to train and improve the model over time, and that's a revenue opportunity we will describe. So, Arjun, could I ask you to talk a little bit about the colored tags and the structure of this data just for a minute, please?
Sure, I will try and cover that really quickly. So as Derek described, here on the screen you can see what our out-of-the-box model can do. So we have out-of-the-box around 70 different categories and subcategories. And here's the way how we classify it. We assign a main category to a document that could be either HR or legal or technical and so on. And more precisely describe it what's inside of this document based on its content. Would it be a business document audit, or would it be a proposal under technical documents, and so on. We also look for some additional information such as PI information inside of a file, or PCI, or PHI, or medical PI information, and so on. With that knowledge, it allows us to create a rule how we split data for sensitive and non-sensitive. So it's customizable, and as a part of professional service, we recommend to agree with the customer what we will consider sensitive data and non-sensitive. For example, let's have a look at CVs under shared documents. They are unsensitive, and you can see a PI tag next to it. So it means that all of the documents that can be classified as a chart document, as CV, it contains PI, we will treat as sensitive. However, if it doesn't contain PI, then it falls under non-sensitive because it could be a template of a CV. Some subcategories can be sensitive without PI tag, like for example, incident report under HR documents, where we don't really care does it contain PI or not, just because if we classify it as incident report, then we will treat it as sensitive. And it helps us later to provide reports on risky data, data at risk, and so on. Also, with this screen, very important tag here is integration with DLP systems. Currently, in this example, Azure Information Protection, we do that out of the box, where we can map tags from Azure Information Protection to different tags like a category and subcategory. So, for example, we can take an audit document under financial documents and assign it confidential tag from AAP. That means that whenever our core of a platform see a file that is classified as audit and financial document, then we can either recommend to assign this AAP tag as confidential, or we can force it to protect the document with this tag. So it's a single pane of, thus you can see that you define your classification policy, classification strategy, and also the way how you will be protecting this data.
Excellent. Thank you, Artem. So we're going to dive into the use cases very, very soon, but this is an example of the customizability of the platform. This set of tags can be completely rebuilt with the customer as a professional services engagement. They might have a totally different set, a structure that even varies from one department to another. And that's an interesting revenue opportunity, which we will discuss in a second. So thank you, Artem. So how do the results look? A few screenshots, and then we will look at the use cases. So, for example, Artem has spoken about how each document or file can be classified either recommended to DLP tags or write the DLP tags, or not have this column present at all if the customer hasn't reached that level of sophistication. So each result here is a file from a particular source with a particular set of categories that was applied by the neural network. This is the machine learning. And it does it the same way that a human would do it, by looking at the contents of the document. You can see we do images as well. And then based on the contents of the document, mapping that to one of the cells in the table we just saw. For example, this document looks like a blueprint. This document here is an RFI. This document on here is an agenda. And that's a public document, so it's non-business critical. And this is all done automatically using machine learning. If there are millions and millions of files, which some of our customers have, this categorization and classification is done automatically. And this is super valuable, because once this is done, Artem mentioned, it's possible to calculate risk. It's possible to map it to DLP platforms. It's possible to identify duplicates, files that are out of date, obsolete data that can be deleted. And you can sort, imagine being able to sort this document set by a specific set of data that you can then migrate into a document management system, or possibly into a cloud system. You've now got visibility of your unstructured data lake or your unstructured data repositories, which is really valuable. Also, if I can quickly show you two other slides which talk about the access rights. So we also look at Active Directory and other permission access management systems, which tells you who can see the files as well. That's very valuable. What control do they have? What access? Or from users, what documents they can see. So imagine again that reports in this format are possible from the user interface using the export button or the reporting option. And you can then take those reports and consult with the user to say, you need to clean up this set of data. This user, has got way too much access, or this particular file is open to way too many users. Another very valuable use case, which we are actually describing in the next few slides. So, to kick off about the use cases, and this is the core of the presentation. There are a slide for each of these, and then there is a summary slide, and we will then be open to any questions. But the use cases are the 5 primary areas that we have discovered that the Getvisibility software operates really efficiently. And these are in production in a number of customers. And we've also noticed and now promoted the fact that a lot of professional services can accompany these particular use cases. And this is the opportunity we are presenting to you today. So if I can quickly summarize them, and then we will talk through each one. Each one is one slide. For example, protecting intellectual property. This talks about looking after the important information, what some people call the crown jewels. Knowing where that is crucial in today's very highly regulated or very aggressive security environment. Use case number 2 is migrating to enterprise content management or content management systems, which is very popular as well. As those platforms become more powerful, you'd rather not migrate everything, you'd rather focus on the important data. Governance, risk, compliance, and redundant and obsolete and trivial data is always useful to clear out of your network or out of your customer's network, because it's taking up space, it's possibly costing to store the data, and it's also risking your audit results if you are keeping data that you should have deleted. Now, this is very relevant, of course, to GDPR. Cloud migration talks about moving the data that is important to move. And data loss prevention, we already touched on. Artyom described how some data loss prevention tools ask the users to classify the document. So that opens the system to a potential vulnerability, in that some of our customers have got R&D scientists, for example, that are given the responsibility to classify the documents they are working on. And if those documents are very important recipes or schematics, then if they have any interest in exfiltrating or stealing that data, they just have to misclassify it. And it's very difficult to catch. So we automate that and we do the sanity checking, which Artyom described. So we'll quickly go through each one of these, and then we will do a summary at the end of this and open the floor to the questions. Artyom, if I can ask you to speak about the first three, please.
Thank you. Each of these use cases usually shows one of the most popular scenarios our customer asks us to help with. And in a nutshell, we are hardly dealing with every use case on a very specific basis, because it's usually an intersection of various use cases for each customer. So for example, if we dealing with protecting intellectual property, first we need to identify the data, and secondly we need to protect it, where it usually comes to rolling out of a DLP system, which is a use case number 5. So speaking of protecting intellectual property, we believe this is the major selling point of our software, because with our machine learning models, we become very, very efficient in understanding IP and classifying that and showing to a customer. Because we don't use an old regular based approach, we use a proper machine learning techniques to understand if we're dealing with intellectual property. Along with that, our usual way of interacting with the customer would be first to agree on what they believe in is intellectual property for them, and here is a plan that we present as a possible plan of attack for a customer. So we usually start with consulting them on their current security posture and strategy, describe where they have their intellectual property. So for example, very often a customer would have big CRM systems and databases where they store latest information about their research. They also can export that to unstructured data. They can store it on a number of file servers or collaborative tools. So we gather all of that information, where all of this data is located. And after that, we recommend to sit with the customer and work on a strategy how this data, after identification, would be protected. Usually, one of the scenarios is where customer asks us to help with identifying intellectual property after there have been one or a few leaks of the data, usually through emails and through unstructured data. This is the part where we describe that with the customer. And usually it is the biggest challenge to evaluate the current security posture and work on a strategy with the customer, how we can fix it for them. Next step of engagement is to customize tags and work on classification of their intellectual property. where we discuss what kind of IP do they have. Would it be design prints, would it be recipes or other form of intellectual property? We gather the data, and the next step is train our machine learning with the data that we gathered from a customer. At this stage, we provide a very nice framework where you can just upload data and get trained model as a result of it. It doesn't require any knowledge in machine learning. It's done in a very easy way to understand it. It's like a drop-down menu where you upload data or specify and label data, and as a result, you get a new model for a customer that's presumably very good in understanding their intellectual property. After that, we need to run another scan and report and consult the customer on intellectual property that has been found on their premises. Usually, a customer doesn't expect to see their IP spread that much across all of their premises. So it's usually a very good selling point for them when we show how efficient our tool is and that they have a lot of data in places they wouldn't expect they would have. And the last step with that would be recommend a remediation plan, how they will deal with it, identify data, and how they would like to protect it. Derek, would you like to add anything to this slide?
Yes, thank you, Artem. I just wanted to say that these recommended steps are just suggestions from our side. We have found that these approaches work very well, especially in customers that need help with complex environments. We're proposing actions such as these, and if this resonates with you and you can imagine that you have customers or you know you have customers with intellectual property that they want to protect that are not finalized with their security policy or have not deployed any machine learning tools, then these steps might be valuable to you. The amount of hours or days that we recommend, they are a complete guideline only. So you can adjust that. You can see there's many departments or phases. Projects might roll on for many months and roll out across large organizations, department by department, or phase by phase. That's not unusual, and it means that there is an ongoing revenue stream because you're looping back to step number 2 or step number 3 for each department, and then going through 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. The remediation as well, and this applies to all the slides that follow, so I won't repeat myself, but the remediation can be quite sophisticated. Remediation might involve recommending another third-party tool, something from Microsoft, something from a company that does archiving or secure deletion of files. And you have the opportunity and scope, if you understand the customer, which you do, which is wonderful, to be able to say, we have found all of this information that needs to be archived or securely deleted or migrated from place A to place B. And having tools or scripting your own solutions with your own development department is completely possible because you've now got the information that you need for that. So it opens many opportunities, and these numbers might be far larger if there's an ongoing sustainable project. Okay, so that same comment applies to all the other slides. And Artem, maybe there is also less repetition now that we can go ahead, but the second use case will be this one for information management. Artem, please.
Excellent, thank you. Another use case that we would like to present to you is migration to enterprise content management system or enterprise information management system or intelligent information management system. So it's many names for those right now. And if an enterprise company just plans to migrate to content management system, or if they want to improve the current state where they are. Getvisibility is just a perfect tool to help them with that. Because if they just at the beginning of their journey where they would like to migrate their data, they pretty much would be interested in migrating their unstructured data, document templates, and not backups, system files, trivial data that has zero value for your business. And when we run Getvisibility on their premises, we are able to gather all of that information and help them with migrating such data to content management system. We recommend starting such exercise from consulting a customer on options they have with going to content management systems. And the next step would be to discover and analyze all of their data they have. So it's just pretty much run the scan across all of their premises to gather as much information about the data a customer have as possible. And the big plan after that would be to sit with the customer and discuss what kind of data they are most interested in migrating, discuss remediation schedules for data they would like to delete, and have a plan for migration to CRM system. It can be quite a big exercise on its own, and here is a figure of 10 days. It's quite indicative, but again, it's just an example. It could be quite big if a customer would have terabytes of data.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Artem. Sorry, would you like to continue on some other points?
Yeah, just quickly, after we agreed with a customer on a migration plan, it could be an exercise where we run, like on previous use case, where we run scan, train our models, consult them on those, help them remediate data that has zero value for a business, like trivial or obsolete, run the duplication, and after that, start slowly helping them migrating data to their content management system. And this is an ongoing process that comes along with project management, where we all help customer to move their data to a system of their choice.
Okay, thank you, Artem. Please note, everybody on the call, that project management is an ongoing activity that does really apply to all the use cases, and even an overall umbrella activity as well for coordinating multiple use cases, which might be valid in some of the larger customers. Also, these activities Artem and I are described in more detail in our training documentation as well, which is written documentation and specialized presentations that go into more detail than the one today. These are all available via Arrow as well. So there's lots of information. We have playbooks and plans of attack for each of these different use cases as well, which go into some detail, and they look at the data that comes out of the Getvisibility platform and how that can be transformed into business intelligence for the customer. So if we move on, Artem, there's another use case that I know you'd like to talk about, please.
Thank you. Another very popular use case is dealing with GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, and dealing with redundant, obsolete, and trivial data. Yes, currently, all of the companies under pressure of GDPR and other various regulations, depending on their industry. There is a big demand on ways how enterprise can be compliant with all of those new regulations. Usually, we start engagement with customer by providing them a service that, of course, is something that Hero and other sellers can help a customer with, is to come up with GDPR attack plan, for example, or any other compliance plan a customer would like to be compliant with, where we define all of the data flows within the organization of a data. We identify the main key search terms per each department. So, for example, when we deal with some government organization, every department might have very specific, unique terms for PI, whereas they look for very, very specific information that needs to be accounted into the plan of how we deal with different compliance type like GDPR or PCI or PHI and so on. After that, we recommend to go through pretty much the same exercise of dealing with a customer where we deploy our software, configure that to search for specific terms, for example, like herd number for some government organizations and so on. We also have pre-trained models for PHI data, and we have rules for PCI compliance as well. So it's a bit of configuration of the software. Scan and report on the data. We recommend to do that on per department phase, on per department base, where we deal with each department separately. And after that, perform audits per compliance type with all of the departments. And after that, when we gathered enough data, we can recommend and execute a remediation plan for each department of a customer.
Very good. Thank you, Artem. So please note, everybody, that this tool in your hands means that you can do these activities or additional ones that you can think of as well, which can use the exported data, because it's a gold mine of information. It's all of the unstructured data. It's a registry of the documents and the emails that are then classified by type, risk level. They contain flags for important information. And this is all done with machine learning. And as a result, the false positives are very low. The context is taken into account. And that makes it very, very flexible. It makes it able to generalize across data that it has not seen before, which is very powerful. It's very much like an expert document classifier in a box, which can scale as well. So very powerful. I'll move on to the second and the second last and the last use case. The cloud migration is a situation where a company, and this is important, for example, to migrate to Azure. And we're getting fantastic support from both Arrow and Microsoft in the ability for Getvisibility to accelerate customers' migration into Azure. So you might, for example, already be quite well into this particular workflow with certain customers. You might have that consultation on cloud completed at this stage, and maybe even have a project plan and a data migration plan in place. What you can do then to augment this plan with Getvisibility is you can add information about where the sensitive data is in the customer. And this opens up a number of opportunities for you to target the departments that need to migrate quickly and securely. You can look at the data that you don't want to execute or don't want to remove, which is the redundant, obsolete, and trivial data. And it's possible for you then to not only move the data quickly for the customer and speed up the transition to a cloud-based software as a service model, but you can also then go and do checks on the cloud accessibility as well. It's very powerful. This is a big accelerator because it takes care of those unstructured documents which might be blocking many cloud migrations, resulting in cloud migration being limited to emails, for example, or CRM systems, or document management platforms, which we've covered as well. But being able to address the wide set of unstructured documents opens it up to all the last remaining data in the customer. We feel that's very powerful, and a number of our customers do agree with that as well. And then finally, DLP platforms. Artyom touched briefly on this in the introduction. A data loss prevention platform might also be something that you have already rolled out in a customer or started to plan with a customer. And if that is the case, you might have noticed that DLP platforms often don't do very comprehensive discovery of data, and that they rely on the users to select on a toolbar usually, whether it's confidential or not, or restricted or highly sensitive. Being able to do that automatically with a software platform like Getvisibility means that those large repositories of documents can also be included now without having to hire teams of people. It's a lot more cost effective from the terms of human people having to put hours and hours into manual classification, which doesn't work. But it also allows you to focus on more higher value services. You've got your data automatically classified with the DLP tags by Getvisibility. Now you can focus on developing the proper policies that align with the customer's strategy, which you have also contributed to. You might also align their DLP policies with other tools that will do the secure deletion, for example. So it gives you much higher value professional services opportunities. You can, as Artyom has mentioned, you can train the system on new tags that have been changed by the customer. This is another opportunity. You can do training on DLP, and this we find, and I'm sure you will agree, is something that makes the biggest difference in large organizations, is getting consistent training and consistent usage of DLP policies. But having removed the major work away from the users and automating it means that you can focus on the correct locking down of the data, which is a lot more valuable. And then there's the remediation as well, which is always an ongoing activity. So these have been 5 use cases where Getvisibility can allow you to build workflows or plans of attack or playbooks to address 5 of the largest security challenges with unstructured data in organizations, from small ones to very large ones. We hope that it has been useful for us to include potential actions, and please consider these to be a very, very small skeleton of tasks that you can add, customize, and just use as input to your thinking process. You might completely have a different way to approach it, but the tool gives you raw information at a very granular level that gives you visibility on all the unstructured data. So we've got 2 slides here which relate to the DLP. This one just showing very graphically in a very simplified manner the data on the left-hand side being classified by Getvisibility, and now it's available on the right-hand side as classified documents with the correct DLP tags. The second slide is if users are already classifying documents and they are potentially making mistakes, that can be corrected automatically by Getvisibility. That removes a potential vector for data loss. So, to wrap up, the Getvisibility solution addresses a number of challenges which are listed in the challenges column. We've described all of these in passing, and on the right-hand side, you can see how the Getvisibility tool allows you to deliver those solutions for each one on the left-hand side. We've described many of them in this presentation. It's a starting point as well, which we would recommend if you have one of these use cases. We'd recommend that you contact us or contact Arrow and get the Getvisibility into a pilot or a proof of concept on a subset of data for a specific use case that you know the customer needs help with. See how it works, see how easy it is to use, see how powerful and how generalizing the machine learning can be. And then you will very, very quickly get a much better idea of how you can roll it out across the other use cases as well. Artem, did you want to add anything on this slide before we go to the second last slide?
I was just going to mention as this slide is quite text heavy and presents even a bit more information that we covered, like for example, migrating workflows to Azure or AWS, working with Active Directory and clean up that. But we will send all of this information with the presentation after this webinar, so everyone can go through all of them.
Okay, thanks, Artem. So the second last slide is a summary of what we have spoken about today. We feel that the Getvisibility platform is differentiated because it's so many times faster than manual classification. It's more consistent. It can be scaled. It can be deployed in different departments or in different geographical regions of large customers. It can be customized across those different regions as well, and yet still maintain the same level of quality. Much lower false positives because of the machine learning. A machine learning will look at two documents, and if a document is similar but not the same as anything it saw before, it will still be able to make a very accurate guess as to what that document is. The confidence level that it maintains for every document is also available as part of the training process, which allows you to look at the documents that are potentially new in a customer that has not run the software before. So the tool helps you with that as well. It also, if I can just talk about one more, Artem, and then maybe if you can jump in. This system requires basic computing proficiency. You do not need to be a data scientist or a software developer to be able to use Getvisibility. You'll still be able to deploy, optimize and train and customize and run reports using the user interface and the export functionality. And that makes it very easy for you to deploy as a reseller and focus on the services that you are providing to the customer. And that's very valuable as well. So Artem, any final points on the slide, please?
Thank you. Just to highlight one more time, because of our unique approach in data classification with our machine learning models, we are able to provide a very high level of accuracy. That means that a company would have less number of false positives just because we work with content of a file in can classified with a high accuracy. We are very fast. It's very easy to deploy, and it's many times faster than it would be done by human beings. We also accelerate cloud adoption because we can highlight what is valuable data, what data should be migrated, and which data should be deleted. We very efficient and effective when dealing with legacy data, and all of this it improves security posture of a company by using Getvisibility and protecting sensitive information and removing data that a customer don't need anymore. And also our return on investment is great, it's 100%, and we can send over our RI documents for those who didn't see them.
Okay, thank you, Artem. So just a point, I want to be very clear on what Getvisibility does not do. Getvisibility does not modify the customer data and doesn't archive data, delete data, migrate data. Getvisibility doesn't help with strategizing and working with the customer's security staff to have a consistent approach. It's a very powerful tool, but it stops short of modifying and intermediating in the customer's network. That's an opportunity for resellers such as yourselves and Arrow to pick this information up and to firstly start with a strategy. Secondly, start looking at the areas of crucial importance where the most important data is, whether it's to be protected, migrated, or deleted, or it's going to be audited. All of those additional features and additional services are built around Getvisibility. We do not do that on purpose. And I think that that makes it a very useful tool for people that want to build more sophisticated revenue services around the platform. And so the very, very last slide is looking at the different types of roles that might be needed to accomplish the previous tasks. Of course, this is completely for your interpretation. It's just as an idea. We would recommend that the full suite of tasks can be carried out by the larger list at the bottom, in which case you can even go as far as having developers writing scripts, but it's entirely up to you. It's not required by the platform. The platform can be rolled out with a basic sales engineer in a silver certified reseller. But the higher the levels are, the more interesting the opportunities get, we believe. And that's it. So we'd like to finish. Thank you very much for your time. I'm not sure how to take the questions, but please, if there are any,